Welcome back, everyone. And as promised, today I'm going to share some of my thoughts about what happened with regards to the Section 232 decision with uranium and what's next and where we are. Just a brief overview of what's going on. Okay, so what happened on Friday? If you didn't check your uranium stocks on Friday, and then you checked at the end or during the weekend, you probably may have been in for a shock in certain places. Why is that? Well, in the morning, I just happened to, not that I'm saying I affected the market at all, did not, but funny story is I tweeted saying something like, happy last day of trading before the 232 decision, because it felt like a holiday. Finally, after all of this time, in theory, we were going to get a decision this weekend. Minutes later, there was some rumor from an Australian newspaper or Australian article, I guess, which pointed to there being no tariffs or quotas on uranium, which is good for the utilities, but not so good for the American uranium producers. Now, whether this was a lucky guess or not, the rumor was believed by the market. You could look at the volume. There was big selling, big selling. A lot of shares turned over in the U.S.-based producers specifically, um, and they went down significantly, and they just kept moving down. Now, on the weekend, we got kind of confirmation on this. There was the official announcement that there's not going to be any tariffs or quotas. So the market guessed right. We'll see how Monday acts with regards to the price action on those stocks that were hit the hardest. But the other thing is looking at how the non-American stocks did. That's a bit of a different story. It There was some relief out there, and I'll talk more on that in a bit. First, I want to talk about those stocks that got hurt the most by the decision. Is is the selling over? I don't know. That was selling based on a rumor, and the fact is now out. And normally, when there's a big event like that, it takes 2 to 3 days to get fully priced in. And on the flip side, I don't know how fast the premium that the US producers, how fast that premium will be priced out. Because the fact is, well, maybe not the fact, but in my view, if this had gone marginally the other way, if it had gone fully the other way, the price of uranium would be in the US would be over $100 today. But if it had gone marginally the other way in favor of the US producers, we could have been looking at $75 uranium that was sourced in the US today. It isn't, so the market is figuring out what that means. Did we work our way down to relatively fair price? I don't know. I'm not the market. I couldn't tell you what's fair. I could give views on what I would buy at what prices, but that's the best I could do. Um, we'll have to see, but they are significantly, obviously, significantly cheaper than they were on Thursday. In either case, no matter how the rumor gets resolved, well, I mean, how people decide that the rumor turning into fact changes things, um, we may see a newer low early next week. As I said, normally 2 to 3 days to digest something like this, big news. But either way, I think eventually, I don't know if it's Tuesday, I don't know if it's this year or next year, but I bet eventually we see higher prices on those stocks that got hurt. Now we'll have to see with regards to who needs financing, what happens, who shuts in production, who doesn't, what happens with the price. But either way, I think eventually all of those stocks that got hit so viciously will be higher. Now, lost in all of this seemed to be some good news article. I don't know if this came from 232 or not, but it looks like the United States wants to increase the lifespan of all of its 100 reactors to 80 years. Now, this isn't a have the spot price jump $20 tomorrow type of event, but bear in mind, if the US reactors use 50 million pounds of uranium per year, 20 years for 50 million pounds, that's a billion pounds of uranium. Now, this billion-pound gorilla is the King Kong gorilla that no one's looking for. Very few companies right now, very little money is going into looking for and developing new sources of uranium. And again, mines don't last forever. So this is a truth that the market will have to catch up to at some point. Look, everyone, I too lost, well, am down, I should say, a whole bunch of money on my US uranium producers between Thursday's close and this weekend. But what I've realized over the past few months and through expanding my research horizons is I don't think it matters, at least not to a large degree down the line in terms of where the price eventually goes for most of the market in terms of what happens where in the US. There's a few million pounds here and there, but realistically, the picture, the entire uranium picture right now can unfreeze because of the resolution to this decision. And this leads me to something I said in a tweet later in the day. Basically, the irony of the situation is despite all of the down big days in the US producers, I said Cameco gets it. And Uranium Participation Corp and NextGen and the Canadian producers and the producers all around the world also. The price of the physical uranium was up $1. Why? Because the freeze is out of the way. Cameco can buy, everyone can get their life going again as normal. So we are back to being able to find a fair price for uranium. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know, we'll see where it goes, but it can go again. And to be clear, I'm not saying that the price has to move $1 a day or 10 cents a day. It could go nowhere for months. I don't think it will, but it could. I could see a scenario where it goes nowhere for a few months. I could see a scenario it's $50 in a month and a half. They're both possible, and neither is particularly likely. But the point is, it's game on. We are currently at a phase that I think of as the maximally bullish phase in terms of the deficit is at its, well, it could get wider, I suppose, but it's at pretty much its widest because of the price. And step one will precede this phase of maximally bullish fundamentals. It will proceed until we hit the second step, which is that the price gets high enough to restart the idled production. And then at that point, it's You could say less bullish, could say maybe bearish if that's your view, but my view is it's less bullish once the production gap closes. But the point is, lower for longer is exceptionally bullish, and so I hope to have to wait, but I don't think that I will. I think that's being probably a bit optimistic to think that we'll be waiting more. But again, the market is now free to go wherever it wants to go. So, what is my message on this point? Well, I've long not been a proponent of 232. I You can go back and see some videos where I've mentioned 232 kind of in passing. I've never been a proponent. Um, but this isn't me talking about if it was right or wrong or if it should or shouldn't have been invoked. Um, the point is that even though I disagreed with it, I believe that it has been and will end up being a blessing in disguise, not only because it gave us more time of lower prices, which was triply bullish in terms of shutting down even more supply, um, giving us more time to buy, and uh, putting off investment and a whole bunch of other things. But it has also led to nuclear health invoking policies for uranium in the nuclear sector going forward. And I also just wanted to say that if you sold I'm just hoping that if anyone sold uranium, US-based uranium producers on Friday, that's my hope is just that they decided for to reallocate the money within the uranium space, because I really believe that we're just getting back to the game, just getting started with the conclusion of this whole slow process. Now, what will things be like for the US uranium producers going forward? Well, it may be awkward or tough getting contracts, but I think they'll be fine, not only because the uranium spot price will rise, but I think they'll be fine because it's not personal. I mean, it's not them versus some single entity person that controls all the utilities that now hates them because of something. No, this is a market. There's tons of different participants. I'm sure they'll be able to find someone somewhere that sees the price, sees the supply and demand situation, and signs a contract with them. Now, I've for a long time wanted to own some producers. I haven't up until this point. I don't. I saw them as paying a premium for depleting assets and losing money. And personally, I don't understand Uber's valuation. So, um, but the point is, I wanted to own them, as I imagine a lot of other people would, for direct leverage on the price going up. So if the price goes up, they start making money and quickly making money, and it's direct correlation. So I do understand the reason for owning them in that way. And in regards to the government, it's not like 232 was over and they said, no, forget about you guys. We're going to lose the uranium production, but we don't care. No, there was, there is a body being put together over the next 90 days to investigate how the government can help keep the fuel cycle alive and strong and the nuclear fuel um, sector really. going inside of the United States, and I believe that they will they will do something that will help. I don't know what it will be. I don't know if they'll be buying, I don't know, a few £1 million a year at a premium in the US, or if they're going to invest in something. I don't know. Um, but the I even though I disagreed with 232, I do respect the Mr. Klenda and Mr. Chalmers for having the courage to do what they thought they needed to do. So I just wanted to end this by saying I know personally that I need to sit tight and be patient on this, and but that doesn't make it. But knowing what I have to do or think I should do doesn't make it any easier. I hope it's easy for you, although I haven't met anyone that it is easy for. Um, but yeah, just looking at the situation, we've looked at the macro, we see what's going on, and we now just have to wait for the cycle to move to where we think it should go and answer questions along the way of what's happening and when does it get to a point where things shift and what matters. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see what matters. We'll have to see what happens uh, then. And I'm sure everyone has their own view of what matters and what does not. And at what point price becomes severely risk to the downside. But I don't think we're near that at this point. So now we wait. Good luck, everyone, and enjoy. Hey everyone, just quickly, you can read this here or in the description of any video. Just remember, what I do and say here is meant to be a helpful supplement or thought filter for your research, not a replacement for it. I can be wrong, and I'm often quite early, aka wrong for a good while, which is why none of this is ever investment advice.